Welcome to the Fishbowl with Jade. Thank you for being here. I don't take your presence lightly, truly, because time is something you can never get back. So the fact that you're choosing to sit with me for a moment means something. Now, go ahead and put on your scuba gear because we're about to dive deep. Let me ask you something. When you say, I want better for my kids, what does that really mean? Does it mean giving them opportunities, or does it mean trying to recreate a life you wish you had? Because there's a difference. Now, let me bring this to a real place for a moment. When I was younger, I wanted to be a majorette. I loved the way they would twirl, the way they would throw that baton up in the air, turn around, and catch it like it was nothing. There was something about that confidence, that presence that I admired, but life didn't afford me that opportunity. That just wasn't my path. But then I had two daughters. And yes, in my mind, I thought they would have been some beautiful twirlers. I could already see it. But here's the thing, they had their own choices, their own interests, their own paths. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to raise them, or was I going to try to relive my life through them? And I chose to be on board with who they were, not who I once wanted to be. Because some parents say they're pouring into their children. But if we're honest, sometimes it looks like pressure, control, and expectations that the child didn't ask for. Now, let's talk about it from a real place. You have kids, but are you raising individuals, or are you raising extensions of yourself? Because when a child feels like they have to become everything you couldn't be, that's not always love. Sometimes that's unhealed dreams looking for a second chance. And I get it. Maybe you wanted to be the cheerleader, the athlete, the entrepreneur, the one who made it out, and life didn't line up that way. But now your child shows interest in something else, something that doesn't match your vision. And instead of nurturing who they are, you start steering them toward who you wanted to be. Now, let's take this a little deeper. From a psychological perspective, children naturally look for approval, especially from their parents. So when love starts to feel conditional, tied to performance, tied to achievements, tied to becoming what you approve of, they learn to disconnect from themselves just to stay connected to you. And that's where identity confusion starts because now they're asking, do I want this, or does my parent want this? And socially, we praise it. We say things like, that's a good parent. They're involved. They're pushing their child. But there's a thin line between guidance and control, between support and pressure, between love and projection. Now, let me be clear. This is not for the parents who are protecting their children from harm or giving them structure and discipline. That's necessary. This is for the ones who may not even realize that somewhere along the way, their child stopped being a person and started becoming a plan. So let me ask you this, and I want you to really sit with it. If your child chose a path that had nothing to do with your dreams, would you still support them the same way, or would you feel disappointed, disconnected, maybe even resistant? Because that answer right there tells you everything. At the end of the day, your child doesn't need another version of you. They need the freedom to become themselves. And sometimes the hardest thing a parent has to do is step back and let that happen. Thank you for sitting in the bowl with me. Now let's come back up to the surface. Now decompress. And until next time, stay classy, stay curious, stay ever evolving. And don't forget, you can listen to The Fishbowl with Jade on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search Jade Mills.